going on, everybody? You are live with Osiris. Welcome to the Author's Lounge. The world is filled with storytellers, and I, along with my guests, are here today in the Author's Lounge to help educate and inspire the young generation of writers and creators. Now, my guests are professionals in publishing, writers from a wide range of formats, and successful entertainers. They will provide beneficial advice on what to do and what not to do on your path to success. So, without further ado, I'll present to you our next guest. Let's go.
I'm so excited today. I have a returning guest, a good friend of mine, someone who I had on the show several months ago, and we've been in contact since that day. And he has been gracious enough to come back to the show. As I mentioned before, he meeting our guest is someone who has extensive knowledge within the world of book publishing. This goes where he's written books that are on business. He also is no stranger to fiction, as he has written several stories within the fiction genre. But the man is loaded with knowledge and is even more loaded with information that can help increase, or I shouldn't say increase, help the individual with brand building or with business building with their stories alone. So I don't want to hold it up any longer. So my returning guest, my buddy, Mr. Mike Van Horn. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, sir. I am pleased to be here.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So I know when I had you on before, it was a pleasure. And just thinking back when I had you on, where I was mentally and how you being on was really helpful, even for my mental health, and being able to continue with the show and having just pleasurable conversations, and then just the joy that you expressed even when the recording was over and we talked afterwards, and you seemed so happy. You felt the same energy that I felt, but it's always better for me to see it on the other side, as it's like, man, I'm making this place a place where people feel comfortable and feel excited to come back and have a good time. So I just wanted to say thank you so much.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes, sir. So yeah, let me hop right into it. So I know we spoke about a few different topics that we wanted to cover before. I know you covered, your work, your repertoire, and what you offer to the industry, the book publishing industry. But now it's a little bit of a different turn, because this is not only applicable within the confines of publishing, but also in entertainment or in business as a whole. And that is the ladder of creativity. Now, in your own words, can you describe to me what does that mean and what does it encompass?
Okay, so I am a consultant and a seminar leader and a teacher, and a writer. So what I do, first of all, is talk with people and do problem solving one-on-one with them. And, there's a lot of people in that kind of business who will do problem solving with one client, and then they'll go over and do problem solving with another client and another one and another one. And they're building up a huge repertoire of problem solutions, but they don't do anything with them. Right. And so the question is there a way that you can put all of these things that you are teaching others, so it's not just one-on-one, but that it builds up so that you can reach a number of people. And so I have done this over the years. And so that's the thing I want to describe, is what are the steps up, kind of up the ladder, so that you turn this one-on-one creativity into products that can reach a broader audience.
Yeah. And how have you been able to do that for yourself?
Well, a couple of ways. One is, whenever I give talks, I record them, just like we're doing now.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is an example of what will be. And so then I get them transcribed. Then I've got something that I can turn into like exercises to use for somebody the next time. And you get enough exercises on one topic, all of a sudden that looks like a workbook. Yeah. And so I've written like 20 workbooks over the years, to based on all the talks that I've given and leading seminars and doing one-on-one work with people. And then you get a bunch of workbooks and you say, oh, looks like a book. Each workbook is a chapter. So all of a sudden you've got a 300-page book then. I say all of a sudden, but
Yeah.
we're talking years to get that all done. Um, and, so that's kind of a stair step of taking things, aggregating them, building them, polishing them, editing them, coming up with some product at the top that you can use
Mhm.
in a number of ways.
Yes, sir. Oh, wow. And so let's say, right, in the world of just publishing as a whole, not necessarily independent publishing or traditional publishing. Well, let me rephrase that. Not necessarily self-publishing or traditional publishing, but publishing as a whole, right? How do you think somebody can take an idea like such as yours, right? You have such an acumen with business. You've written over 20 workbooks about it, and or just 20, and maybe going on to like 30 or 40 before we hit 2028. But you take your knowledge that you say on the video and then you transcribe it and you can break it into actual books. But how can somebody, sorry about that. How can somebody do something similar? Let's say it's not their business per se, like they're not writing a business book, but they are wanting to, I suppose, build upon their let's say for example they're a fantasy writer, right? They write fantasy novels and they want to be able to educate people on the principles of writing fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
How can someone go about doing something like that?
Well, I'll tell you what I do is that I am always answering questions on forums. I'll go on Medium or Quora or Substack or
Hmm.
something like that, and somebody will ask a question and I'll answer it and just have a note there. And I say, what I said is pretty good. So I
Hmm.
will copy and paste that into a Word doc, and then that becomes it could become a blog post. But in any case, I've got a whole file of those pieces that I have created in that way
Hmm.
to use as whatever way that will come up. And that can apply to fiction as well as nonfiction.
Yeah.
It just depends on who you pay attention to online. And so rule one, and this is everybody should write this on the back of their wrist with an indelible pen, is capture creativity when it happens.
Hmm.
Because if you have a good idea and you say, oh, I'll come back and write that down in half an hour, it's gone. It'll be gone. You got to capture it in some way, either scribble on the back of a napkin or record it on your phone or write it on the whiteboard or whatever, wherever you are, get it down so that you can then remember and go back and elaborate it later.
That's wonderful advice. And one of my old buddies, he used to call that phrase like lightning in a bottle. You got to capture it almost immediately in some
Yeah.
capacity. And I like that idea. You reminded me, right, when I was talking to, it was my niece. It was like about a year ago, and I was helping her with writing a story, and we collaborated on writing a children's book. It's titled Adi's Wish, and the idea, we just had a long conversation, and then we were like, everything, all the energy, all of the creativity, it has spiked to a level that you wouldn't necessarily generate out of nowhere. Unless you woke up from a dream, you're like, oh my God, that dream was amazing. Let me write it down so I won't forget. But what we did with that concept was after we spoke, we ended up writing the entire book that same night.
Mm.
Granted, I say entire book, but to those who've written children's books, that the level of written effort, in terms of word count, is far less than a novel. But the creativity concept is still the same. You're still putting together a story. You're still making sure that the words align with the story. But anyway, we wrote the entire story that night, and it went on to do quite well when it launched about 7 8 months later. Hit Amazon bestseller, and she made a good bit of sales, and it was just a wonderful process. But I don't think that would have happened in that regard had we not hopped right on board.
Oh
We
yeah.
just yeah. Would you? So has something like that happened with you in your career as a writer?
Yeah, all the time. Well, I won't say all the time, but when it does, that's the time that you got to make sure you get it down. Oftentimes, kind of like what you just said, it will happen when I'm talking with somebody. And we'll
Hmm.
get throwing ideas back and forth, and that's when it's really important to be capturing them. You were just the writing project you just described. I mean, when you get on that kind of creative high, that is so important. You can write stuff and get stuff down that if you were just sitting and looking at the keyboard and the computer screen, it could take you a year to do. But you can
Hmm.
capture the whole dang thing in a night if you if when you're on that creative high.
Oh, absolutely. And it's such a like that the dopamine rush that comes when you're even in flow state with the creation of the story. It's something that you just it's hard to duplicate. Some people will get into this, they'll get their time down of the day where they want to write or they want to create, and that's awesome. But uh in that creative process, there's maybe this is not fact based. This is just from my experience and from others who I've spoken with, where if they're working on a book that might take a couple months, in those couple months, there are moments, and not every day, but there are moments throughout the process where their creativity is skyrocketed, and they're able to just push out everything, or at least an immense amount of work that had gone into it that day versus other days where their creative juices aren't necessarily flowing like that. And this is not just applicable to book writing, but in content creation as a whole. Now, are you someone who indulges in content creation of any aspect?
Well, you mean besides books?
Yes, sir. Yep, yep. Thank you for that clarification. Yep.
Yeah.
Besides books.
Well, like I say, there's a whole there's the whole ladder, and in a way, the book is at the top because it combines everything that was below it. And so if you look below that, you've got the workbooks, you've got exercises, you've got workshops, you've got blog posts, and each one kind of feeds into the ones above it.
Mhm.
I mean, you could add in things like audiobooks would be a great example. Podcast, just like what we're
Mhm.
doing now. I mean, there's so many different avenues of capturing these things,
Mhm.
and probably you got to find out what is your own uh, best. What's your style? Some people would rather die than talk in front of a group of people.
Mhm.
Others would just love to do that. I'm always happy to do that.
Yeah,
Some love to be in a podcast. Others would much rather write a blog post. So you got to find your style but just make sure that you record it when you do.
for sure. And I like the idea about you got to find your own because what works for someone else may not work for this person. And there are people who I know on a personal level and professionally who they're not fans of being on camera, and they would much rather do everything behind the scenes. And I think that's just okay. And but to that point, when you're doing these workshops and when you're creating this type of content, right? Is it better that it's your face on it if you're the one behind the work, or are you more of the mindset of, hey, I'll put all the work together, but let me put a face to this and let that face be the representation? Well, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, when I've done it under my own name, if that's what you're getting at.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
there are certain things I've done where I've co-authored with somebody else, but basically, I'm the completer and the main author,
Hmm.
and that's because there's a lot of people that are good at putting together material, and they're experts and they have a lot of expertise, but they're not good at doing the final writing. So
Hmm.
I end up kind of doing the final versions of whatever we're working on together.
Yeah. Okay. And so with that, right? One of my thinking is when it's I guess I'm thinking more of now if we're focusing on sales, especially with business being at the frontal of it. Does it benefit the person, right, who's doing all of this content to charge an exponential amount of money up front, or should that be a part of their business model after they've given out a ton of free content?
Hmm. That's a really good question. And I think there is kind of we're talking about a ladder of creativity. There's also a ladder of fees. And so, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the bottom step of that is free, give stuff
Yeah.
away. And there's a slogan that I've heard many people say, the more you give away, the more you sell.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so then you have something, you create something, a step up that you sell for a small amount, an ebook, or a workbook or something like that. Maybe that's $5 up to $30 or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Then you create a teleseminar, webinar, or whatever, and you charge $50 to $100 for that. Then you put on an intensive workshop and you charge $500 or $1,000 for that. Then, you know, you put together a retreat where you take a small group of people off to a fancy place and they all pay $10,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So you can see that there's just kind of a scale, a ladder that goes up, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all using the same basic material. You just have to package it in different ways.
I see. I see. And it sounds like, and this is no, you can do this in a day or a week. I know the answer is rhetorical, but I'm just kind of asking it for viewers, where there's a lot of people who want to do this quick, and I think that that's a quick way to crash when you're going too fast. But how important is it to really enjoy the process of the journey and to really just take your time with this process?
Yes, you know, it's not something that can be rushed. And so I've often said that a book takes 2 years to write. 80% of that is agonizing over it, and 20% is actually writing.
Hmm.
And so you talk about the joy of doing it, but there's also the agony of doing it.
For sure.
Holy, I can't think of what's going to come next. You know,
Right.
these two pieces don't match up. All of that kind of stuff that you've got to work through.
Hmm. And so to add on to that, right? Because I would agree that there's this might be glorified as a way of suggesting that all aspects of this creativity is enjoyable, and to an extent it is, but there's parts of it where it's just, man, it's rough. It can be rough, and trying to pull things out. You look like you have something on the tip of your tongue.
Well, the thing I'll say is that oftentimes the most enjoyable part is the initial capturing of the information, like we're talking about
Yeah.
recording something like that. And so then you get it written down and you look at it and say, huh, there's some good ideas in here. And then you say,
Mhm.
oh my God, this needs a lot of editing. And
Yeah.
the writing is fun and the editing is horrific.
Yeah.
You know, there's a slogan that I've heard attributed to Hemingway: "Write drunk, edit sober." And
Oh wow.
the idea is you just get on a high and just pump out information and ideas and storylines and
Yeah.
all of that. But then you look at it and say, "Boy, this is going to take a lot of editing to make it into a final
Hmm.
product." And I
Oh
mean, that
yeah.
could take a year or more to do something like that.
Hmm. Yeah, that piece is, whew, it is gut wrenching. I know that I've played editor for a few books, and you also in the editing process want to make sure that you maintain the voice of the writer, and so you almost in a way can develop the voice of the writer through the studies of it. I know this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the content, or the ladder of creativity. This was just something that kind of came to mind because our friend Jenny Grossenbacher is an editor as well, certified editor, and I just remember in talking to her about the editing process, about how grueling it can be, but also how fulfilling it is. And you have to really have patience as an editor, um, because what there's copy editing and then there's developmental editing. And for me, when I did the editing, I was more of the copy editor. The developmental piece, I guess depending on the genre can become convoluted depending on the writer or you as the editor. So it can be a whole ordeal. Are you an editor by any chance, or have you had any experience with editing?
I edit my own stuff, but I don't really want to spend time editing other people's stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I did it when I was doing my my independent book publishing, and because I had a lot of experience as an editor, I decided let me do it myself, and then have another editor look at whatever else I feel like. If I feel like it needs another eye, I'll shop it out. But no, I'm with you. I think focusing on you is just enough. So,
Well, let me I'll add something to that. There is one exception to that, which relates to this. When I'm writing, I work with critique groups. So this will be right now, we have a critique group of 6 people. I'm the only man, me and 5 women. Uh, this is for my science fiction. And so every month we have a Zoom meeting. But before that, we send out a couple of chapters, and we edit each other's stuff. And then during the Zoom meeting, we give feedback verbally. And then we send the pieces back that we've marked up. So you get both kind of copy editing, and you also get overview developmental editing feedback that way. So to me, that is an exceptionally valuable process. Gets
Mhm.
me getting feedback from people that overlook at things that I've forgotten or things that I take for granted or things like that. And that's invaluable
Mhm.
for somebody.
Wow, man, that's heavy because when it comes to your own work, people are quite apprehensive about wanting their work shared, especially in a written piece. There's a natural fear for some, not for all, that their work could get stolen. I think if you're dealing with, with upstanding people and honest people who have proven to be honest, I don't think that should be a concern if you're sending your work to them for it to be in this critique group. But I also really love the idea that you said Zoom call, because there's a notion out there, this idea that critique groups all need to be done in person, but there's a benefit in doing it virtually as well. Now, the people who you do it virtually with, is it a virtual based critique group, or do you all meet sometimes in person and then Zoom calls are additional?
We've done it both ways. Back before the pandemic, we always met face to face.
Hmm.
But then when the pandemic came up, we could only meet by Zoom.
Yeah.
And then after that, said, this Zoom is pretty convenient. Maybe we don't have to do all this driving.
Right.
Uh, but I also have people that read my stuff and give feedback. They're all over the country, all over the world. I mean, there's
Hmm.
people I regularly communicate with in England or Italy or Australia. There's no way you can get together with people like that for
Right.
this purpose.
Oh no, no, for sure. To that point too. Even with this show, you mentioned really good points. The benefit, I think, the silver lining that came out of the pandemic era was how it amplified the use of virtual calls, whether it's virtual face to face or just audio only. But granted, I know it's always existed, but I believe that it was just amplified immensely during that pandemic. And so there's a lot of things that people could take advantage of just at the tip of their fingers. Now, for you, granted, I know you work a lot, you write a lot, you work a lot, but one of the last few questions I want to ask you before I let you get out of here is, when you are, I guess, when you're trying to come up with this idea of, man, do I want to go into this, make it to make money, or do I just want to, build some sort of credibility? Some people do it for free because this is more like a side thing that they enjoy, but they're making money from another job. So I guess where I'm getting at is, because I am kind of speaking in circles, for somebody, how important is it for them to really differentiate? Do they want to do this for money, or do they just want to do this for fun?
Yeah. Writers are always saying they want to live off their royalties and book sales, but it's a rare person that can do that. What I've always found is that in creating these business workbooks is that, yeah, I sold workbooks and books, but really where the money came from was me giving a workshop up in front of a bunch of people and solving problems in kind of a group. And then a few people would raise their hand and say, where can I get some more of this? And
Yeah.
so I say, well, on the back table is my books and you could buy a book. And so I sold more books that way than anything
Mm.
else. And also, I normally get one or two people out of that group that would then become my client. And that's where the money came from. I mean,
Yeah.
this process basically carried my business for 25 years.
That's actually sound advice. And now those conferences that you did where you were a speaker when you were on the stage and you said, "Hey, my books are in the back." Was that a paid gig or was it a free gig and you brought your books, or was it a
It
combination of
could be
both?
either way, but even if it paid, it didn't pay a lot. So, I wasn't one of these $1,000 speakers,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Uh-huh. Now, and to that point, right? How do you become someone that people want to pay to see? Right? You've been doing this for a long time, and you've been an entrepreneur for a long time as well. And so you are certainly the perfect person to ask. So it's a two-part question. One, how are they able to get to a point to where they are wanted as a speaker? And then two, how do you know your financial worth in that process? Like, hey, we want to have you come over here, but we don't know what to charge you. What's your worth there? So yeah, what's your answers to both?
Well, I never made enough from the speaking fees to worry about it a lot. It's kind of a way that you build up your reputation over time. So you start off doing a lot of free stuff and
Mm-hmm.
eventually, and then on your website, you have a media page so that when you find some organization you think would be interested in you, say, hey, look at my media page. Here's the link. And they
Mm-hmm.
say, wow, you've done some interesting stuff. How much do you charge for this? Well, those are the words you really want to hear. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of organizations, though, they have kind of a set fee. They say our normal fee for this is $500 plus we'll pay your travel costs. And I'd say, okay, let's do it. But it takes some experience to build up to get to that stage.
Yep, for sure. And the website. Now we're in an era where many businesses are are gaining a ton of traction or have gained immense traction through social media, and the need for a website may seem minuscule. Now, in your opinion, how important is it if you have a strong social media presence, or even if you just have a presence on social media in general? How important is it to also have a website?
Well, I think both are important.
Hmm.
First of all, social media, you don't have control over them. And if something happens that social media platform goes under or gets acquired by somebody else, you could lose all the stuff that you posted.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, it's hard to find the names of people who are interested in you. My view on it is that the website is kind of the core of your all these media, and so your blog posts and your Facebook thing and your LinkedIn thing and all these other things need to feed um, into your website.
Yeah.
And the website is the place where you also offer yourself your products for sale. I mean, even if you're selling on Amazon, you got to have a description on your website and then a link over to Amazon. So I
Okay.
think that websites, uh, if I find somebody that doesn't have a website, I kind of lose respect for them. I went,
Hmm.
what's this person doing? Are they really serious?
Okay. No, excuse me. That I think is the answer that I was hoping to hear. Was something along the lines of, "Hey, those who you didn't say this, but just me kind of paraphrasing that those who are in it for real will have a website in
Yeah.
addition to the social media, because social media it drives a lot of commerce, right? But the standard across the board, if you're doing this for real, is You need to have a website. And I really like that you pointed out the media page, because I've seen that on many people's, whether I've gone to authors pages, or I've gone to actors pages, or executive producers, whoever. I've always seen a media page in relation to that business, whether it's publishing or the entertainment. And so, because you're showcasing your work. That doesn't matter to an extent of what website, and this is more from an aesthetic standpoint, so I don't necessarily know how serious it might, but does it necessarily need to present as corporate, or should it be a reflection of the person if it is only based on the person?
Oh, absolutely a reflection of the person. Basically, you're trying to sell yourself,
Hmm.
and so your website needs to be a reflection of your own personality to some degree. Sure,
Hmm.
it needs to be professional and look good, but if somebody like me who talks informally, if I had a website with a lot of corporate sounding language, that wouldn't work. No, they wouldn't
Hmm.
connect that with me.
Okay, okay. And so now it becomes more about like knowing your audience as well. Well, knowing yourself and then knowing the audience that you speak to, so there won't be any sort of confliction with that. Should your social media reflect the same
Oh,
when you're
yes, definitely. I mean, you've got to have your voice be the same in no matter what you're doing, so that people, uh, I don't know, so the people will like you and click on you and respond
Mhm.
and say, "Hey, maybe I'll go look at this guy's website."
Okay. And so that brings me to this part of the question too, right? Where the handle and the link, because I've seen some names that are long and some that are short, or some that's a mixture of both. But when it's universal across the board, um, is that raising the, I guess, the likelihood that a person can be taken in more of a serious, not like a grr serious, but more of a, oh yeah, no, they are for real about it, when their name and their website and their social media handles are exactly the same.
Oh, well, I don't have social media handles and my web URL the same. That's for sure. Many of the I try to get my name in the social media um, word, but my website, it's kind of a long name. It's smallbusinessworkbooks.com.
Hmm.
Well, that's a lot of letters, but it's easy to pronounce, and it doesn't have any dashes or periods or anything like that in it.
Uh-huh.
So to me, that is the key thing with your website URLs. Have something that people can grasp and type in without making errors.
Yeah, yeah, no, I like that too. If it's gonna be long, make it make sense, make it, keep it simple, and people are more driven to go there. Or it does depend on the audience in terms of who's going to go to the website, because there are many people who don't go to websites, they go to social media, or vice versa. But I think as long as you have both, especially the website, keeps you top heavy, because like you said, Mike, if anything were to go down with any of those social media accounts, or is bought out, or whatever the policies change, you may lose an entire audience. Subscription letters, newsletters, is that, in your opinion, also important in this ladder of creativity?
Yes. Well, what you want is to get people to subscribe to something, because not everybody is going to buy something the first time they look at your website or online thing, but they might subscribe. And so then you can send things to them over a period of time. Like maybe they get something every week or month or whatever. And so then maybe 6 months down the line, they say, oh, it's kind of interesting. So you've
Hmm.
got a way to kind of build and sustain interest over a period of time. I look at newsletters and blog posts as being kind of complementary in that way.
Hmm.
Blog posts are the things that anybody can read and respond to, whereas newsletters, you have to subscribe to get them. But you can often use the same material in both of them.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Substack earlier too, right? Do you use Substack at all for blogging purposes?
Uh, I'm starting to, but I haven't used it much. I mainly use Medium, uh, if you're familiar with that.
No, I'm not. What is that exactly?
Well, medium.com is a forum for writers and others to share ideas. And a lot of it is political stuff, a lot of it is personal development, but there's a lot of other things on there too. There are
Okay.
there are business writers on there all the time, and that's what I'm interested in.
Oh wow. Okay. No, I wasn't familiar with that. A lot of the people that I found, ironically, have come from LinkedIn, and then maybe Instagram, but LinkedIn, I found a lot of professionals there. But Medium, I will check that one out as well.
I find LinkedIn confusing. Uh,
Oh,
it's 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 just doesn't seem to have a very good design, in my opinion.
hmm
So, you know, I don't use LinkedIn as much as a lot of other people do.
oh yeah. No, I mean
For,
that makes sense too. Oh, go ahead.
for one thing, I'm not looking for a job,
Yeah.
or even really looking for clients that would be there.
For sure. Yeah. So, and it comes down to like, what's your reason? I think a lot of people who are on LinkedIn is exactly for that purpose of some sort of social networking, whether it's to get a job or it's to like to find people. I know I go there with the focus of trying to expand my reach of people that I can get onto the show, people who certainly have a message that align with what I do here on the Authors Lounge. But I think the best type of networking is word of mouth, right? Like people, your
Yeah,
name get around, and as long as you have a great reputation, then you should be good to go.
yeah.
But okay, go ahead, sir.
I, I'm just agreeing with you. I think that what you said is a good use of LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm going to check out Medium as well. Now, before I let you go, podcasts. Like, how often are you open to doing podcasts? Because I got a couple people who I feel like your information would be really useful, but not gauging kind of gauging what your availability would tend to be like.
Yeah, I'm available. Just suggest a time. I will make time for it.
Okay. Yeah, this one is it's called the Cozy Book Nook. The Cozy Book Nook podcast. That's actually they are is run by a couple of friends of mine over on X Spaces, and they do weekly podcasts. It's audio only, and but it's sensational. She me and Christina and Laban, the two hosts of the show. Christina lives out in Florida. Laban lives out in Africa, and they somehow, some way, still weekly make it work. And but they look for guests every single week, and this the knowledge that people come on there with. I think you would add a ton of value. I've recommended, I think, one other person to the show, and he went on there and he did this. No, two, Kayla Hicks and Amit Ghosh. But I definitely would love to connect you with them if you'd be open for it.
Sure. I mean, let me say, I don't know anything about cozy mysteries.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, well, for sure, for sure. But you don't necessarily have to. It's for them. They focus on just educating writers. It's really focused. Like, whereas this show is focused as a whole of creatives, whether they're in the entertainment business or in the book publishing business. Their show is specifics to authors. It's a show completely dedicated to authors and how they can build their platform and how they can improve as a writer. And they bring on different guests on there to shed their light and their knowledge and provide wisdom to their guests. And so I don't know their audience age range. I don't think that even matters because creatives don't have an age limit. So, but I definitely would love to connect you with them. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, yes, sir. Just a heads up, they do it on Tuesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, 9 hour time.
Okay. Tuesday's a good day for me.
Okay, yeah, I'll connect you with them. I'll connect you with them. But okay, cool, man. Well, aside from that, good sir, any closing remarks before I let you go?
There, actually, you said one thing that I'd like to comment on if we have
Yeah,
a couple minutes.
yes,
You
sir.
you were concerned about people about sharing writing because somebody might steal your ideas. I think
Oh
that
yeah,
is really overblown.
yeah.
Uh, you know, I've been in crit groups for decades, and I've never had anybody steal any of my ideas, and nor have I ever been tempted to steal anybody else's. And part of the reason, well, there's two reasons. One, we're writing such different things. The other is, I always think I'm the best writer. Why in the hell would I want to steal somebody else's ideas?
Yeah.
Pretty better than they are,
For sure.
So I think that's pretty common attitude among writers.
For sure. No, for sure. I'm glad you kind of you broke that down. Yeah, things that I've heard, and this is mostly with younger writers. When they're seasoned or when they're like in their 30s plus, that doesn't tend to be a thing. But a lot of the audience members who watch here, their age ranges from 12 to 65. But like my 15 to like 25-year-old audience, that tends to be a thought of, will they steal my work? I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't think that should even be a concern. And if it is, you might want to reconsider the circle of people who you're wanting to share your work with.
Absolutely.
Right. If that's a thought, then
you're going to hang out with thieves.
Yeah. You reconsider who you're hanging with if that's a thought. But okay. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for your time. Good sir. I very much appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, sir. Hey, man, everyone, Mike Van Horn has returned, and it was wonderful to have you back, good sir. I wish you continued success, and I hope to have you back on again. We can do a trilogy at some point.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Right. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to tune in to today's episode. You're live with Osiris and Mike, and we'll catch you next time. You all take care.